Good day to everyone. We are from the University of Santo Tomas in Manila, the Philippines, and we are here to present our study entitled Perceived Social Support as an Antecedent of Sport Confidence among Selected University of Santo Tomas UST Collegiate Student Athletes.
Sport is a universal language, and it is believed to bring the world together due to the massive support that big sporting events draw. For most athletes, their physical needs are commonly being developed or trained during practices. But athletes' psychological and emotional health should also be considered. It is believed that social perceptions, may it be positive or negative, have implications for athletes' psychological health. Though there is no correlation between sports fandom and sports exercise, there is, however, a correlation between athletic support and sports performance of athletes. Social support refers to an exchange of resources between two or more individuals perceived by a provider or the recipient to bring out an enhancement in the well-being of the recipient. Richman et al. 1993. On the other hand, confidence is one of the key aspects that affect the athlete's performance during competitions. Having full support from the school administration and the student body, they will feel more comfortable during games. It will boost their morale and make them eager to win. This study specifically aims to identify the levels of perceived social support and sport confidence among the selected collegiate student athletes in the University of Santo Tomas. It also intends to know if a relationship exists between two variables. The main effect model by Cohen and Willis holds an individual's positive perceptions of their social network have a positive effect on outcomes. The stress buffering model, also by Cohen et al., states that a person with higher social support tends to be less affected by negative life events. The sport confidence theory by Vili in 1986 explained the importance and meaning of confidence. The degree of state sports confidence is determined by the interaction of three factors: trait sports confidence, SC trait; state sport confidence, SE state; and competitive orientation.
The figure shown represents the paradigm of this research. It includes the 5 independent variables of the study: perceived social support, general, and its 4 subscales: emotional, esteem, informational, and tangible. All the values gathered from the respondents pertaining to these independent variables underwent statistical analysis to determine if there exists a positive correlation with the dependent variable in this study, which is sport confidence. This study aims to identify whether perceived social support has a positive relationship to the sport confidence of UST collegiate student athletes. Specifically, this research answered the following questions. First, what are the levels of perceived social support of the respondents in terms of general perceived social support, emotional perceived social support, esteem perceived social support, informational perceived social support, and tangible perceived social support? Second, what are the levels of the respondents' sport confidence? And lastly, is there a relationship between the perceived social support and sport confidence among selected UST collegiate student athletes? The research design of this study is quantitative and descriptive in nature and is a correlational study with 2 variables: perceived social support and sport confidence.
The sampling technique that was used by the researchers is purposive sampling. Our respondents consisted of 120 collegiate student athletes of any gender aged 21 to 25 years old and were currently enrolled in UST during the time of data gathering. The data gathering was done during the time of COVID-19 pandemic and when the face-to-face classes are not allowed. Thus, data gathering was done online via Google Forms. Now let's proceed to the instruments used for our research. Let's start with the first instrument. We included the student athlete demographic information. These data are necessary to determine whether they fit the inclusion criteria for the study. Next, the trait sport confidence inventory. as constructed by Villi in 1986, is a scale that is used to measure an athlete's sports confidence. It is composed of 13 questions with a Likert type scale of 1 to 9, 1 being the lowest and 9 the highest. Finally, the Perceived Available Support in Sport Questionnaire, or the PASQ, initiated by Freeman, Coffey, and Rees in 2011, intended to measure perceived available support in sport. In this study, PASQ includes 4 underlying dimensions: the emotional, esteem, informational, and tangible. It uses a Likert type scale ranging from 0 to 4, with 0 being no help and support at all, to 4 as extremely providing help and support.
For the distribution of respondents in terms of age, majority are 21 years old with 58.3% corresponding to 70 respondents. Figure 2 shows the distribution of respondents in terms of year level. As complied, 61% are fourth-year college student athletes. This figure shows that the highest percentage, 15%, of our respondents came from track and field, and the least came from chess and fencing with 1% each. Table 2 shows the participants have a fairly positive perception of social support. As seen on the table, item number 5 got the highest mean score of 3.80. This means that the respondents highly value receiving feedback, even if it can hurt them, because they believe that these criticisms will help them to improve. On the other hand, item number 6 got the lowest mean score of 2.95. This shows that the respondents do not want to rely solely on other people as they do their tasks, related or not related to their sport. It shows that self-reliance is a big deal for athletes and they want to finish their tasks on their own. In this slide, you can see the results for emotional and esteem perceived social support. Both receive very positive perceptions. For emotional perceived social support, the highest mean was in item 11, which indicates that receiving care from others is a big factor for athletes. For esteem perceived social support, the highest mean was in item 12. This shows that athletes want their sense of belief in themselves to be boosted by other people. In this slide, you can see the tables for informational and tangible perceived social support. Informational perceived social support receives a very positive perception from the participants. The highest mean score for this subscale comes from item 5, which demonstrates the importance of information about their performance for the student athletes. According to Cranmer and Solito 2015, athletes who receive pertinent information from the people around them, may it be coaches or family members, are able to rely on those people to help them build their self-worth and maximize their abilities. For tangible perceived social support, it received a fairly positive perception from the athletes. The item with the highest mean score is item 16. This demonstrates that the athletes are grateful and value the help that they get from others in their preparations for their competitions or matches.
In this slide, we can see the levels of confidence of the respondents. Among the items, item 13 garnered the highest mean score of 6.83. This means that the respondents have that belief that if obstacles, disappointments, and failures happen, they have the capability to recover and be on top once more. Table 4 shows the result of the Pearson's correlation test. The Pearson correlation coefficient for the general social support is at 0.24 and the p-value sits at 0.01. Therefore, general social support has a significant and positive yet weak relationship with sport confidence. For emotional social support, it is at 0.15 and has a p-value of 0.11. It has no significant relationship with sport confidence. One factor that can affect this is the absence of support from their parents due to their location, wherein student athletes spend a lot of their time away from their families and loved ones when they compete or when they are studying in a university far away from home. For esteem social support, the Pearson correlation coefficient is at 0.21 and the p-value is at 0.02. This analysis shows that there is a significant and positive yet weak relationship between esteem social support and sport confidence. As referred in the table 4, there is a significant and positive yet weak relationship between informational social support and sport confidence. This variable has a 0.21 Pearson's correlation coefficient and the p-value of zero point 0.3 significance. Lastly, tangible social support has a Pearson correlation coefficient of 0.22 and the p-value of 0.02, meaning that this variable is considered a minimal factor that affects the sport confidence of the athlete.
Using the PASQ, we computed for the mean rates of the following subscales of perceived social support from 120 respondents using 4-point Likert scale, 0 being no help and support at all, and 4 as extremely providing help and support. Informational support with a mean rate of 3.31, emotional support with a mean rate 3.25, esteem support with 3.24, general social support with 3.23, and tangible social support with mean rate 3.16. It was only informational perceived social support that received a very positive perception for the respondents. For the respondents' sport confidence level, it was classified at a high level. And lastly, for the relationship between perceived social support and sport confidence, it was general social support, informational social support, esteem social support, and tangible social support that showed a significant positive relationship with sport confidence, though these relationships are weak.
For our recommendations, the first recommendation that the researchers would like to give is for sports administrators and managers to devise proper and specific measures that can be done to ensure that their student athletes experience and feel the support coming from them. This may be in the form of constant talk sessions that ask for the student athlete's conditions, proper mechanisms such as sport psychology services, tutorial services, proper nutrition, accommodation, provision of supplies like uniforms, vitamins, and food should also be in place. The next recommendation is that organizations or committees within organizations can be established or further strengthened so that there will be more available support for the student athletes. Examples are fans clubs, alumni support groups, committees and student councils, and varsity organizations. Our next recommendation will be for the coaches to continue promoting the welfare and well-being of student athletes by providing proper training and feedback mechanisms and to ensure that their needs, may it be psychological, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual, are given proper attention. Regular team talks can be done to communicate these available services to the athletes. And finally, for future researchers, it is highly recommended that further studies be done on this topic. Modifications can include administering locally made tests, expanding the respondents' pool to grassroots, professional, and elite athletes, and the inclusion of other constructs that can affect the sport confidence of athletes, such as coaching behavior, mental toughness, courage, and risk-taking behavior. That would be all for our presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a wonderful day, everyone.